the AI can be installed so that it can monitor both the motor and the pump's efficiency. So it can know how is this pump still working? Is this motor still working? Is this one still on? And also, as it's a preemptive measure and the AI is really good at predicting and passing water flow, it will help mitigate the actual 2011 flood. So if that were to ever occur again and our system is integrated into Bangkok, the flood won't have as much damage because our system would have helped flood out a lot of water beforehand.
I'm Michael New, your host. Welcome to Thailand Today. Almost 10 years after the massive flooding in the upper and eastern part of Bangkok, today the capital city remains vulnerable to heavy floods that inundate portions of the city. Efforts to improve flood disaster management continue, including an award-winning innovation by a team of students and professors from Mahidol University called the Flood Prevention Protocol. It's an automated drainage system that uses AI technology. To find out more, we're joined by Associate Professor Dr. ยศชน วงสว who is Vice Dean for Research and International Relations at Mahidol University's Faculty of Engineering. He's the advisor to the team of students who invented the protocol, and Sean Gallup, an engineering student at the Mahidol University who led the student team. สวัสดีครับ Thank you very much for joining us today.
Okay, thank you for having us.
My pleasure. As we progress towards a digital economy and the whole idea of Thailand 4.0, what role does automation and AI play in our daily lives?
Yeah, actually, that would be a very nice question because there would be three wording. Okay, you have AI, you have automation, and then actually currently people talk about the new normal or the next normal. Okay, so let me clarify a little bit. Automation actually come with industry 3.0. So normally that would be a little bit old age because currently we talk about industry 4.0. So the difference would be AI. Okay, if you combine the automation with the AI system, actually is 4.0, but it's not obvious. Okay, so you need big data, you need creativity, you need to solve some of the new problem. So some of these things would call the complex problem solving, or automatically we call like soft skill in combination. Okay, so if we want to shift to have paradigm shift for the new normal or next normal, you need to have the automation plus the AI system, and then you can get to the industry 4.0. I have one example. Okay, actually before COVID, industry 4.0 already there, but no one would concern. Okay, but during COVID, we call that COVID would be the catalyzers of that industry 4.0. Some company that adopt some type of this technique would not have any problem in their benefit or having their company run through. That would be all flexible, like some IT company, Amazon, Microsoft, or some of these things also adopt industry 4.0. Okay, so currently the problem would have happened with some company that just only having pure automation, or if you still use some of your facility infrastructure that just getting involved with only hardware. In this era, you continue having some problem. Okay, so that kind of thing is paradigm shift from industry 3.0 to 4.0.
And certainly during COVID times, it's become even more important to focus on automation and everything digital online because you can't work in person so easily anymore and because it's very difficult to have a regular office.
Yes. Right.
So my next question is for Sean. Specifically, I know you've been doing a lot of research on the flood prevention system in Bangkok. Can you walk us through that? Like, what is the current flood prevention system in Bangkok and what weaknesses does it have?
Well, Not Thailand, sorry. Bangkok has many flood prevention systems. They both have installed a big giant tunnel underground that can hold and store more water. They have hundreds of floodgates, which is the research that we mainly focused on. And they also have people who go check the drainage pipes to get rid of garbage so that water doesn't block up and come up onto the roads. Mm-hmm. Those are the three main ways that Bangkok has to deal with flooding. We did research mainly on the floodgates because that is what our protocol improves on. Anyway, the floodgates have three main fatal flaws. The first fatal flaw is that they are all controlled manually. Now, because they are controlled manually, you can imagine when it rains, somebody has to actually go to each floodgate and push a button. That takes way too long, and by the time somebody's done that, it's already flooded. Mm-hmm. So that's one big giant flaw. The second flaw is that the floodgates aren't actually all built by the same people. There are two main industries in Thailand. There is the กรมการระบายน้ำของกรุงเทพ and there is กรมชล Mm-hmm. They do not work together because I've talked to both of them and they don't have information on each other. So there is a lack of communication in like the system, which is extremely bad. We have the technology, we just lack the communication to work together. But all pales in comparison to the biggest flaw, which is because there's hundreds of floodgates installed in Bangkok, each floodgate, when open, they should consider every other floodgate. Mm-hmm. You can look at it as a chain reaction. When you open one floodgate, it's going to affect the others. If you open this one, it's going to let water go to more at another certain spot. So when you open a floodgate, the people at the other floodgates have to be prepared. However, that's not true because they just open the floodgates when it rains. That's their whole motto. That's their whole way of using the floodgates. So this is where we try and tackle and solve the problem.
What happens exactly if one of these floodgates is not open while the other ones are?
Well, it will get overloaded basically. If one particular area doesn't have the floodgate open while the others do, all the water will rush to that area and with nowhere to go, will just flood that particular area.
Mm-hmm. So as Bangkok experiences a very large rain, what protocols are in place to mitigate the water?
The floodgates.
So the floodgates is one of the main strategies. Does that move the water into reservoirs, or does it just like helps with drainage?
It moves the water into reservoirs. That is correct. It also drains the water as quickly as possible out into Manam Chao Phraya River, mm-hmm. because that's where all the water needs to flow back to. And three, it spreads the amount of water. Like it helps everybody like get some of the water to help take all the water, because sometimes with rain, it only rains in a particular spot. So mm-hmm. that particular spot can drain the water out. So the floodgates can help in three different ways. It's just not efficient.
So this was an example of there is actually existing infrastructure. There was just very little communication and a very inefficient system that oversaw all of it. So it actually doesn't require all that much extra investment, and it's more so the design of the actual system which is important.
Correct. You're absolutely right.
So what does your flood prevention protocol do exactly?
Our flood prevention protocol, to put simply, solves all those problems. We fix the problem of communication by having not humans control the floodgates, but instead having an AI control the floodgates. This AI will be able to collect all the information from all the floodgates and can control all the floodgates simultaneously. That way it can respond to rain and other flood scenarios in real time. Because with rain, we usually have like the weather forecast saying it will rain today, and all that information is given into the AI. That information and other information that we collect, like level sensors, which is basically collecting the water level at certain points. So if the AI sees that, hey, this area has very high water level, it's going to flood. It's going to open the floodgate to flood all that water out and balance the water level. to make it as minimal as possible so that when rain does come, the water level isn't already high. So it helps mitigate the water level in advance, which is why it's really, really good.
So, of course, this preemptive strategy is really, really good, but what happens in the case of, I forget the year, was it a few years ago, there was a huge flood all over Thailand, like once in 100-year flood. Was it 2014, 2011? What happens in a situation like that? What strategies does Bangkok have in place?
Well, in 2011, there was a lot of rain, obviously. It was, like you just said, it was like once in 100 years. So in all honesty, there would be no system that could reliably counter that. However, Thailand did put up a good fight. They installed a bunch of water pump motors at those floodgates. You see, sometimes water flowing out into the Manam Chao River isn't fast enough. So we have installed many, many floodgates to help pump out the water even faster. That's one of the ways that Bangkok tried to deal with the floods. But by doing so, they ended up overextending and the electrical supply cut short. This is something that we found out through research. Now, that you may ask, well, how does our system fix that? Well, once again, the AI. The AI can be installed so that it can monitor both the motor and the pump's efficiency. So it can know how is this pump still working? Is this motor still working? Is this one still on? And also, as it's a preemptive measure and the AI is really good at predicting and pathing water flow, it will help mitigate the actual 2011 flood. So if that were to ever occur again and our system is integrated into Bangkok, the flood won't have as much damage because our system would have helped flood out a lot of water beforehand.
I understand. So because this is a once in 100-year problem, it can cost too much to actually design infrastructure to accommodate for that. So what we do is sort of like use the money most efficiently as possible to create a system which can handle most things, and in your case, your flood prevention protocol just makes that system as efficient as possible.
As possible, correct.
However, we have to take a quick break, but don't go away because we'll be back with more of Thailand Today.
Thai people have made it through the COVID-19 crisis because we all stayed home for the greater good to stop the spread. However, the global economy is on the decline. Thailand is no different. All sectors need to work together to accelerate our recovery. The government sector will reduce taxes, lower interest rates, and promote the business sector. As for the people, we will have to adapt to the new normal. This means working from home, studying online, finding new means of income, and staying safe. It's only if we can all stay healthy that we'll have the power to move the nation and balance our economy once again.
Welcome back. You're watching Thailand Today. We continue our discussion with Associate Professor Dr. Yochanan Wongsavat and Sean Gallup of Mahidol University on their flood prevention innovation, or the Flood Prevention Protocol. How did the idea to develop this protocol come about?
So let me tell you a story of me being a person who is, I live in Bangkok and I live in an area where it's actually even further below sea level. And I experienced floods a lot ever since high school, middle school. It's affected my life, quite a majority of my life. And my friends that were in my group also had this problem. So we were thinking, we're in the 21st century, with 2021, we should have a solution to floods by now, because floods occur way too often in Bangkok. So that's when we did our research and we found out that, hey, Thailand actually has floodgates, which are a very common use around the world. Florida, you may know Florida in the United States. It is a state that is also below sea level. However, they don't receive floods as much as we do, because they have actually like 1,000 floodgates installed in their cities, 1,000. And that is an incredible amount, but they use it efficiently and it doesn't cause flooding. Thailand once had a kind of a project idea that they wanted to do many years ago, where they made all these canals. Some of the canals you see are actually not nature made, they are man-made. They made them in order to install the floodgates. However, they kind of did it to like, they did it like 75% of the way. And then they found out that, oh, we're going to have to install a bunch of systems in order to use this efficiently, and then just stopped. So we stepped in there to try and get that rest of the way so that it works at its most efficient expected pace. And when we wanted to do the idea, we obviously had to go to the actual floodgates, and we saw like the said problems where there's nobody around, nobody's there to actually use them. So that's where the beginning of the idea came from for the floodgates.
I see. And what other challenges did you have in the R&D process?
Well, getting to the floodgates is actually really hard. Some of them are out in the jungle in the middle of nowhere. I mean, some other than information on them being very scarce on the internet, because usually information on the internet is always praising stuff that people do. It usually doesn't tell you the downside. So when we were reading online, we were like, well, if it's really as good as it seems, then why do we still get flooding? So to do more R&D, our professor here, many thanks to him, he found us a bunch of connections to the two industries that I told you that actually make the floodgates. So we were able to talk to them, and I personally went to the Institute of Gomshon in Phuket and went to talk to one of the R&D researchers for floodgates. And she gave me a lot of information, big thanks to her, about what are the downsides of the floodgates. That was one of the biggest challenges, was actually finding the information.
Yeah, some of the thing of this also really challenge on the wording we call digital transformation. Okay. So if you can digitize all the system, for example, you also need to put some of the sensor onto all the thing on the floodgate, and also you can check better what would be the climate change as well. So that would be another challenging thing. If you can predict, actually, Sean also develop, try to do the future development on, maybe we do the forecasting, whether we would know that it would rain a lot next week, so we can clear all the rivers, we can clear all the things. So I think that would be one thing that beyond putting the sensor onto the to see the water level. Okay, so I think that would be another challenge on this point as well.
Well, what I like a lot about this protocol is that it sounds like you really did your research and you've come up with a solution that does not cost a lot of money, but is very intelligent and it makes use of existing infrastructure. And of course, I'm not the only one who thinks this is a good solution, because apparently you guys have won a bunch of awards for this protocol as well. Do you want to tell me about that?
Who should talk about that? Well, I guess I should. Well, this was my very first competition, and I went into this blindly. That's the best way I can describe it. I'm a biomedical engineering student, and this competition is an automation competition. So we're supposed to build an automated system that's smart. Now, I'm a biomedical engineering student. You may ask, well, what does the flood prevention protocol have anything to do with biomedical engineering? Fun fact, it doesn't. But that doesn't stop us from actually trying to develop a solution, because being an engineer, it's not about like, hey, I'm in biomedical engineering, I'm just going to make medical stuff. It's about solving problems and thinking of solutions. So that's why we developed this idea. And being the first competition, we had a lot of motivation and ambition. We were willing to do a lot of things to try and overcome the obstacles. One of the challenges I would like to add actually was COVID. COVID was a very big challenge in trying to work, because as you may know, our team was involved with 22 people. And trying to work online with 22 people is even harder than you can ever imagine. And trying to get to like university to work on our actual prototype was really challenging. But we, with our help from our professors and our seniors, we were able to pull through and come up with the grand prize. So I'm very proud of that, proud of us.
I think you guys did a fantastic job. You know, you touched on something pretty interesting there, that idea that engineering is about problem solving, and that can apply to all kinds of different stuff. I'm not sure if you knew this, but my own background is in civil engineering, and yet here I am hosting TV shows. That same attention to detail, that same ability to think about a problem, whether it's media related, whether it's outside of your necessarily your field of study, is really important. I think it's at the core of what engineering is all about. And I think that Mahidol is particularly good at putting people from different faculties together to work to solve bigger problems, and often those come up with the very best solutions. Have you found that working with people from many different disciplines has changed your approach to solving this problem?
Most definitely. The engineers that we worked with we worked with electrical engineers, we worked with mechanical engineers, communication and signal engineers, civil engineers, and also industrial engineers. So it was done by a team of, we had many perspectives on this work. Like, for example, when we were designing the demo, when we designed the demo to represent our model, we had to actually build it. And to build it, we had to use facilities provided by the Industrial Engineering Lab here at Mahidol. And when we brought it to the seniors, they gave us some like tips like, hey, why don't you do this instead of this, because it's more efficient. And really working in this project gave me it expanded like my mindset basically. I don't just look at one path, I can see now many paths. One of the best things for me in this competition was I got to do the role as team leader. That was a very big responsibility, and admittedly, it was a lot of pressure. But now after going through it, I can say that I'm very grateful that they chose me to be a team leader, because I learned many things. I might have not been the one coding. I might have not been the one doing all the hard work as much as everybody else. But learning the responsibility and being able to manage people and giving everybody a job and having everybody on the same page was something that was quite challenging and more than I thought. But I learned a lot from it, and especially working with such a wide range of people and from different faculties, different majors, it really expanded how I thought on different kinds of things.
That's great. It is very difficult to run a project like this because it is so technical. I feel like you have to learn a little bit about everything in order to manage something like this properly. Do you think that this flood prevention protocol goes further than just Bangkok?
Yeah, Delta actually also actually this is Delta Cup. Okay, so that company also support some of a lot of equipment as well, and then they also like talk with us whether would like that idea to get bigger. We might use some of our initial ideas, and then we can go into the real field, so that we can make some kind of the more data or more communication with more organization. So I believe Bangkok is one good example, but it's not limited to Bangkok. Like Sean just say, people pick up this idea because that actually useful. It's our local problem, but actually it's a global problem as well. And then if we think just only something locally that actually touch our daily life, we can get into that problem deeply. But however, this problem also exists with other countries as well. They also love some of this solution, and then maybe who never know, like China, Taiwan, or even like the US might adopt this kind of solution.
What's next for you, Sean? Have you got any other projects you're interested in?
Well, right now the semester is open, so I'm really just studying because my second year is actually quite hard. and other projects I'm doing are not related to this one specifically. However, I will, like Professor just said, be continuing to do this one if there is any other uprising content for it. Like if Delta wants to actually use it, I will definitely be there to continue working on it.
I can't wait to see what exciting things you get involved in next. Thank you so much, both of you, for coming on the program. Really appreciate it. ขอบคุณครับ Unfortunately, we've now run out of time, but thank you so much once again to Associate Professor Dr. Yotchanan Wongsavat, Vice Dean for Research and International Relations at Mahidol University's Faculty of Engineering, and Sean Gallup, engineering student at Mahidol University, for talking to us about their invention, which we hope will be a great solution to the persistent flooding problems in Bangkok. That's it for our show today. We broadcast every Tuesday to Friday at 9 p.m. on NBT World and live on our YouTube channel. Don't forget to like and comment on our Facebook page, Thailand Today Online. สวัสดีครับ